We're ranking the 10 most affordable world cruisers that actually protect men over 60, no risky bargains, only boats that pass the old man's strength test. These range from rare bargains built like bomb shelters to classic tanks infamous for surviving the deadliest storms when modern rivals failed. Each entry meets strict safety and comfort criteria: solid glass hulls, gentle motion, smart layouts, and proven ocean history. All are vetted for knees, backs, and bank accounts. Some will surprise you with their reputation, others with hidden dangers, and one popular pick is a trap that could sink your retirement. So which cruiser offers true safety on a budget, and which is just a pretty liability? Let's begin the countdown with number 10. At number 10 sits the Halberg Rasi 352, a boat that stretches the budget, but for good reason. This is the classic center cockpit cruiser, built in Sweden with thick hand-laid fiberglass and a reputation for outlasting its owners. The standout feature is the true aft cabin, separated from the main saloon by a walk-through galley. For an aging back, that means a real bed, not a coffin-shaped bunk wedged in the bow. The center cockpit sits high and protected, letting you step down to the deck without twisting a knee or risking a fall. Wide side decks and sturdy handrails make moving forward steady even in rough weather. The winches are within easy reach of the helm, so you are not scrambling up and down when the wind pipes up. With a motion comfort that favors heavy displacement, the 352 does not slam, it rocks gently, letting you actually sleep at sea. Turnkey listings in 2024 and 2025 run $60,000 to $75,000, pricey, but you are buying peace of mind and a boat that feels like a cottage, not a plastic tent. For those who want real comfort and can stretch for it, this is where the countdown begins. Number 9 is the Cape Dory 28 and 30, a pair of boats that prove you do not need size or complexity to sail safely into your 70s. Designed by Alberg, these are full keel cruisers in the purest sense. The keel runs nearly the length of the hull, giving the boat a stubborn ability to track straight, even if you let go of the wheel to pour a coffee or grab a sandwich. That is not just comfort, it is a safety feature. For a solo skipper with stiff joints, being able to trust your boat to hold course while you move around the cabin is priceless. The systems are stripped down with minimal electronics, simple plumbing, and manual everything. That is not a flaw, it is a blessing. Fewer gadgets mean fewer things to fail when you are hundreds of miles from the nearest marina. Owners report that with basic maintenance, these boats just keep going. In 2024, you will find Cape Dory 28s and 30s listed between $20,000 and $35,000, often with recent upgrades. The interior is cozy, not palatial, but the cockpit is deep and protected, and the deck layout lets you move around without risking a fall. For the sailor who values reliability and low stress over flash, this is the sweet spot where simple equals safe. The Allied Seawind 2 is the boat that lets you stay dry when everyone else is soaked. With its high freeboard, the hull rises well above the waterline, keeping spray out of the cockpit and off your foul weather gear. That is not just a comfort issue, it is about stamina. When you are 65 and battling a headwind, staying dry means you stay warm, alert, and less worn out by the end of your watch. The deep cockpit coamings are another rare find in this price range. Instead of perching on the edge, you sit deep and secure, surrounded by fiberglass walls that keep you planted in your seat, even if the boat heels hard. This sit-in, rather than on-cockpit design, means fewer slips, less bracing, and a real sense of being protected from the elements. Listings in 2024 show clean, ready to go. Seawind 2s between $30,000 and $45,000. The cabin is not cavernous, but for a couple or a solo sailor, it is a practical, safe space. For those who value dryness and cockpit security over flash or speed, the Seawind 2 delivers exactly what matters most. The Tayana 37 is the boat that tempts you to move aboard and never look back. Designed for long passages, it feels less like a weekend toy and more like a rolling cottage. The interior is roomy, with real standing headroom, deep lockers, and a galley that lets you brace yourself in a seaway instead of pinballing around. At anchor or underway, the heavy hull settles into a slow, predictable rhythm, less jarring and more restful, especially when your joints are not what they used to be. Listings in 2024 show ready-to-cruise examples from $45,000 to the low $60,000, putting it at the upper end of the affordable spectrum, but still within reach for many retirees. Warning: almost every Tayana 37 came with teak decks. They look gorgeous, but over time every screw hole and seam becomes a potential leak. Water seeps in, rotting the core and driving up repair bills. Removing and replacing teak on a Tayana 37 is not a weekend project. It is a full-yard job, with invoices running from $20,000 to $40,000 depending on the damage. Some sellers have already bitten the bullet and had the decks removed or re-glassed. If you find a Tayana 37 with original teak, factor that cost in before you fall for the charm. For sailors over 60, the comfort is real, but only if you do not inherit someone else's maintenance nightmare. The Southern Cross 31 doesn't just survive a storm, it's shaped to make storms less dangerous in the first place. This is the classic double-ender, with a stern that curves gently to a point instead of ending flat. That shape isn't just for looks. In a following sea, when waves chase you down from behind, a canoe stern lets the water slide past instead of piling up and trying to spin the boat sideways. The result is a ride that feels steady, not squirrely, a huge relief when you are tired, the autopilot is humming, and you just want to keep your course without wrestling the wheel. Everywhere you look, the Southern Cross 31 is armored for the long haul. Deck fittings are solid bronze, not stainless or plastic. That matters because bronze shrugs off decades of salt, sun, and neglect. The lifeline stanchions, cleats, and even the chain plates were built to outlast their owners. You won't find cost-cutting here. These boats were laid up thick before accountants started counting ounces. On the inside, things get tight, headroom is modest, and the cabin feels more like a den than a dance hall. But for solo sailors or couples who value safety over square footage, it's a fair trade. Listings in 2024 show prices from $25,000 for a project up to $40,000 for a ready-to-go example. For men over 60, the Southern Cross 31 offers peace, a hull that forgives mistakes, hardware that won't quit, and a motion that lets you sleep when the wind picks up from behind. The Nicholson 32 is the boat you buy if you want to sleep through the night without worrying about what is happening under the floorboards. This is the British answer to the Westsail, built thick, built slow, and built to last. The standout is the encapsulated keel. Instead of a bolt-on chunk of lead, the ballast is sealed inside a solid fiberglass stub that forms part of the hull itself. That means no keel bolts to rust or fail, and no midnight panic about water seeping in around corroded hardware. Surveyors and insurers alike see this as a lower risk, one less way for disaster to sneak up on you at sea. For men over 60, that peace of mind is more than just a technical detail. It is the difference between a quick check of the bilge and an anxious crawl with a flashlight every time you hear a new creak. The Nicholson 32's Motion Comfort Index is high, thanks to its weight and deep hull form. You get a slow, steady ride that soaks up the chop instead of tossing you around. The cockpit is deep and protected, with winches close enough to reach from the helm, no gymnastics required. Listings in 2024 show ready-to-go examples priced from $25,000 to $40,000. The interior is not palatial, but you are trading some elbow room for a hull that shrugs off abuse. For the sailor who wants one less thing to worry about at 3 in the morning, the Nicholson 32 delivers exactly that. The Pearson 365 lands at number 4 for one simple reason. It makes daily life aboard safer and easier for men over 60. This is not a stripped-down survival pod. It is a boat designed for living, not just enduring. Step below and you find a real stand-up shower stall. No more bracing yourself against a wet curtain while the boat heals. That small luxury transforms into a safety feature when you are tired, cold, and just want to get clean without risking a fall. The galley is wide enough to move comfortably, but narrow enough to brace yourself in a seaway. Handholds run the full length of the cabin, so you are never more than an arm's length from steadying yourself. But the real ace up the sleeve is the ketch rig. Instead of wrestling with a single massive mainsail, the sail area is split between main and mizzen. That means smaller, lighter sails, easier to hoist, easier to reef, and far less strain on aging shoulders and backs. The primary winches are positioned where you can reach them from the cockpit, so you are not forced to play acrobat every time the wind shifts. Moderate displacement gives the 365 a gentle, predictable motion. Owners say you can actually sleep underway without being launched across the cabin. Current listings show clean, ready-to-go Pearson 365s from $35,000 to $55,000. For that price, you get a boat that feels like a small apartment, not a floating tent. For men over 60, the Pearson 365 turns comfort into a safety feature, and that is why it ranks this high on the list. The Alberg 30 proves you do not need a thick wallet or a big crew to cross oceans safely. Designed in the early 1960s by Carl Alberg, this 30-foot boat has quietly racked up a logbook full of Atlantic crossings and solo passages, often skippered by sailors well past their first youth. In 2024, you will spot Alberg 30s listed for as little as $15,000 if you are willing to tackle some projects, or closer to $35,000 for a boat that is ready to leave the dock and point at Bermuda. That is less than the price of a new pickup truck, and a fraction of what you would pay for a modern production cruiser that is lighter, flashier, and frankly less forgiving when the weather turns foul. This is proof that value and safety can coexist. What sets the Alberg 30 apart is the way the boat handles real-world conditions. With a full keel running nearly the length of the hull, the Alberg tracks straight and true, even when you are tired or distracted. That means you can leave the tiller for a moment to make coffee, knowing the boat will not wander off course. The cockpit is small and deep, a deliberate design that keeps you low and protected. No sprawling acres to cross when a wave comes over the rail. The side decks are narrow, the rig is compact, and the sails are manageable. Everything is within reach, so you are not forced into awkward lunges or acrobatics. This design tracks and keeps you protected. This is not a dry boat. Owners will tell you when the wind pipes up, you will get wet, but you will stay safe. The systems are simple, with no complex electronics, no finicky pumps, and no hidden wiring. If something breaks, you can fix it yourself. For a solo sailor on a pension, that is not just convenience, it is survival. The Alberg 30 is not fast, and it is not roomy, but it is honest. If you want to cross an ocean without betting your retirement on the next marina bill, this is the boat that gets you there and gets you home again. The Westsail 32 is the boat you buy when you want to stop worrying about the weather and start trusting your hull. This is the original heavy displacement tank, 20,000 pounds of hand-laid fiberglass, a hull so thick you can drive screws into it without hitting daylight. Built to William Crelock's design, the Westsail 32 became the face of the 1970s cruising dream, crossing oceans with families, solo adventurers, and more than a few retirees who had enough of landlocked living. What sets the Westsail apart is the way it moves. When a squall hits, the hull does not shudder or slap, it absorbs the impact with a deep, muted thud. Owners describe the motion as slow and forgiving, the kind of ride that lets you cook soup on a gimbaled stove in 40-knot winds. That is not a party trick. It is the difference between eating a hot meal and chasing your dinner across the cabin. The cockpit sits deep, with high coamings that cradle you in place, and the decks are wide enough to shuffle forward without risking a fall. Every handhold is exactly where you need it, and the rig is simple. No gymnastics required to trim a sail or reef down fast. You pay for all this comfort with speed. The Westsail averages 5 knots on passage, sometimes less if you load her down with water, tools, and the inevitable mountain of spare parts. But for sailors over 60, weight is the luxury. The motion comfort index is sky high, and that means you sleep instead of bracing yourself against every wave. In 2024, turnkey Westsails list from $30,000 to $55,000, with the best examples already refit by owners who plan to go the distance. The layup is bulletproof, the systems are basic, and if you keep up with the basics, standing rigging, engine, and through hulls, these boats will outlast their owners. The Westsail 32 does not win races, but it wins the only contest that matters, keeping you safe, rested, and dry when the sea turns ugly. August 1979. The Fastnet race, a proving ground for every theory in yacht design, turned catastrophic. Hurricane-force winds and 40-foot seas battered 303 starters. Boats capsized, vanished, or limped home shattered. 15 sailors died. Amid the chaos, a standard Contessa 32 named Ascent pressed on. While larger, more modern yachts rolled and broke apart, Ascent was the only Class 5 boat to finish. She did not just survive, she crossed the line battered but upright, her crew shaken but alive. That outcome was no accident. The Contessa 32's design is all about survival. Nearly half her weight sits in ballast, locked deep in a fin keel. Her center of gravity is low, her hull narrow and deep. The result is a stability range of 156 degrees. Knock a Contessa almost completely over, and she will right herself. Most modern cruisers lose stability at 120 degrees or less. When the sea tries to roll her, she drains quickly and keeps going. Her rudder, mounted on a protective skeg, shrugs off debris and impacts that would cripple exposed blades. The hull is solid fiberglass, laid up thick before cost-cutting took over. When a wave hits, it thuds, energy absorbed, not transferred to the crew. There are compromises. The cabin is tight, comfortable for one, snug for two, challenging for anyone tall. The cockpit is small and deep, with high coamings that keep sailors secure when the boat heels. Every control line is within easy reach, reducing the risk of slips or awkward movements, especially for older sailors. In heavy weather, the cockpit feels like a foxhole, safe, contained, and ready for whatever comes. In 2024, Contessa 32s list between $35,000 and $55,000 depending on condition. Systems are simple, layouts honest, maintenance straightforward. There is no luxury veneer, just a proven survivor. For those seeking evidence that small boats can be the safest, the Contessa 32 stands alone. She is not a showpiece, but a legend forged in real storms. Crossing oceans does not demand youth or bravado, just a boat that has already faced the worst and come through. Across all 10 of these cruises, one truth stands out. Real safety comes from mass, simplicity, and proven design, not flashy tech or modern marketing. These boats are not about bravado, they are about surviving storms when your body cannot outmuscle the sea. For older sailors, confidence does not come from price tags. It comes from a hull that forgives your age. Which would you trust with your life? Let me know below.